Children vanish in coal barons' cursed lineage. Sinister warning, what you are about to discover has permanently altered the lives of everyone who investigated this case. If this video fails to receive your interaction, algorithms will ensure that disturbing content like this vanishes from recommendations. This may be your only chance to learn secrets that have haunted investigators for decades. Mysterious Chronicle of the Forbidden. Haunted Special Edition, 1900s to 1920s. Children vanish in coal barons' cursed lineage. Terrifying discovery reveals experiments that defy nature. Exclusive investigation exposes dark conspiracy that still haunts today. Narrated by Dr. Septimus Graves, pathologist who was never the same after these discoveries. Brave readers, prepare yourselves to discover truths that have disturbed investigators for generations. For years, whispered rumors in mining corridors spoke of disappearances that transformed innocent children into living nightmares. What we discovered transcends the worst fears of human imagination. The case of the Blackwood children, 12 heirs to the Blackwood coal empire of West Virginia, exposes a sinister conspiracy extending to the darkest circles of industrial wealth in the 1910s. This is not Gothic fiction. Every line has been verified through documents that should never have survived the passage of time. In 1913, while our society celebrated industrial progress, an organization known only as the Order of Perpetual Extraction conducted rituals that transformed childhoods from privileged innocence to subterranean nightmares. The Blackwood children were not chosen by chance, but for characteristics that made them perfect specimens for sick obsessions with geological manipulation. Terrifying transformation documented in photographs. Confidential documents obtained through our investigation reveal that Thaddeus Mormont, the sinister mind behind the operation, had developed rituals that forced unnatural transformations in human physiology. The Blackwood children were subjected to ceremonies that transformed radiant youth into grotesque, coal-infused abominations in a matter of weeks. Medical photographs, preserved in archives that librarians keep locked behind 7 keys, show a demonic progression, coal dust patterns appearing beneath the skin in the first week, eyes darkening to pitch black in the second, skin hardening into coal-like texture in the third. At chronological ages between 6 and 17, the Blackwood children displayed biological alterations that defied medical explanation. Sinister circle funded by cursed dynasties. Our investigation discovered that the order received financing from industrial dynasties obsessed with the prospect of achieving immortality through profane science. Each ritual cost fortunes, paid with the suffering of children transformed into guinea pigs for diabolical ambitions. The ceremonies conducted combined experimental medicine with medieval occultism. The Blackwood children were kept in underground chambers decorated with alchemical symbols, subjected to ceremonies that mixed medical procedures with Latin incantations that made blood freeze in the veins. Corrupted authorities protect conspirators. Evidence reveals that municipal authorities, influential families, and corrupt clergy members were aware of the order's sinister activities. Death records were falsified, families were silenced through dark threats, and any official investigation was systematically sabotaged by invisible forces. Dr. Morrison, a coroner who subsequently developed night terrors, secretly documented impossible anatomical discrepancies, children's remains with coal formations growing from within, organs infiltrated with geological matter, brains with unusual crystalline structures, physical evidence of unnatural manipulation that defies scientific explanation. Nightmares haunt investigators to this day. Each person who investigated this case developed unexplainable psychological disturbances. Margaret Thornfield, librarian who discovered the archives, began experiencing coal dust emerging from her pores after reading the documents. Dr. Blackthorne developed a paranoid obsession with coal-fired heat. Professor Crow refuses to enter any building with coal furnaces since viewing the photographs of the Blackwood children. Cursed archives reveal demonic methodology. Our investigation led us to the State Medical Archives, where we discovered evidence of systematic tampering suggesting supernatural intervention. Pages torn with surgical precision, stamps that changed color with the light, signatures that seemed to move when observed peripherally. The crucial discovery came through carbon copies that librarians swore they had destroyed decades ago. These documents mysteriously appeared organized on our research desk one morning, as if invisible forces wanted the truth about the Blackwood children to be revealed. Mormont's diaries written in ink that changes color. Thaddeus Mormont kept records in ink that transformed according to the ambient temperature, revealing hidden texts when handled. His notes, written in archaic German mixed with alchemical symbols, describe procedures that defy both medicine and physics. The Blackwood children were identified in the records as Carboniferous specimens Alpha through Lima, designations that reduced living children to objects of geological experimentation. The selection criteria were disturbingly specific: heirs with family history of exceptional coal profits, all born during geological anomalies, considered biologically conducive material. The Carboniferous essence, developed by Mormont, combined radioactive elements with glandular extracts from preserved cadavers, creating a compound that the scientist believed could accelerate geological processes in living organisms. The injections were administered directly into the bone marrow during nocturnal ceremonies. Photographs that haunt those who observe them. A photographic series attached to the reports documents a transformation that haunts anyone who dares look at the images for more than a few seconds. The initial photographs show the Blackwood children as radiant youth with innocent smiles. Subsequent images record a deterioration that seems to continue even after the photographer's death. First week, coal-like patterns begin to form beneath the skin, spreading like underground veins. Second week, eyes darken to absolute blackness, reflecting nothing, as if absorbing all light. Third week, fingernails harden and transform into coal-like structures that grow at accelerated rates. Fourth week, the children present with skin that hardens into geological formations with living tissue beneath. The most disturbing aspect was that the children's minds remained intact within bodies artificially altered. Psychological records document the eldest Blackwood child crying for their mother with a voice that sounded like rocks grinding against each other, creating an existential contradiction that tormented even the most hardened executors. National Network of Haunted Laboratories. Intercepted correspondence reveals that Mormont did not operate in isolation. The order maintained a network of collaborators in at least 8 states, all conducting variations of the same experiments in laboratories that were subsequently abandoned due to unexplainable manifestations. Each laboratory received funding from local industrial groups, creating a national conspiracy of child exploitation disguised as revolutionary geological research. The total number of victims may reach hundreds of children, all sacrificed on the altar of scientific ambition corrupted by obsession with mineral-based immortality. Financial records show that each experiment cost fortunes provided by families who subsequently suffered unexplainable generational curses, premature deaths, accelerated mineral infiltration in the bones, early dementia. As if participation in the conspiracy brought temporal retribution. Underground facilities where geology behaves strangely. The Blackwood children were kept in an underground complex built 3 floors below the main mine shaft. Modern visitors report that compasses fail to function in the location, skin develops temporary coal-like textures after prolonged presence, and mirrors reflect versions of observers with coal-black eyes. The environment combined medical equipment with alchemical symbols engraved on copper plates that oxidize and restore cyclically. Temperature fluctuates independently of heating systems, and there are reports of whispers in dead languages echoing during the new moon nights. Carboniferous transference of vital essence, theory that haunts science. Technical documents reveal that experiments with the Blackwood children were part of a much more sinister and comprehensive project. The order had developed a pseudoscientific theory called Carboniferous Transference of Vital Essence, combining experimental medicine with occultism in a way that defies rational understanding. The central hypothesis suggested that the process of coal formation, organic material transforming under pressure into valuable resources, could be replicated in humans and accelerated through specific rituals conducted during medical procedures. Mormont believed he was distilling eternity in elixirs of immortality. Underground laboratory where geology behaves abnormally. The Blackwood children were kept in specially constructed cells where physical laws seemed altered. Geologic instruments functioned at different accuracies depending on location in the room, plants grew coal-like structures instead of fruits, and photographs revealed that images aged independently of the subjects photographed. The environment combined cutting-edge medical equipment with alchemical symbols that glowed with their own phosphorescence during experiments. Temperature was controlled not by thermostats, but by geological formations, and lighting provided by candles made with substances that made shadows move against the direction of light. During weekly rituals, the children were positioned in the center of circles engraved in the floor while Mormont and assistants recited incantations that made the air vibrate with frequencies causing geological disorientation. Simultaneously, the children were subjected to procedures that included spinal fluid drainage and injections of radioactive mineral compounds. Development of impossible geological capabilities. Records document that the Blackwood children developed abilities that defied geological physics during experiments. Mormont observed episodes where the children demonstrated knowledge of mineral compositions without testing, spoke about coal seams that would be discovered decades later, and showed understanding of geological processes that hadn't been scientifically documented. More disturbing were the geological projections recorded. The eldest Blackwood child began to describe her own body in different mineral states simultaneously, as if existing in multiple geological timelines. Mormont interpreted these manifestations as evidence that experiments were expanding the specimen's geological perception. Existential suffering documented in psychological reports. Medical photographs show the Blackwood children developing simultaneously physical characteristics of multiple geological states, skin with coal veins beneath childish features, eyes turning to obsidian while maintaining youthful curiosity, fingernails transforming into coal-like structures while maintaining childish mannerisms. It was a biological contradiction that transformed existence into a constant geological nightmare. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, a nurse who subsequently developed selective amnesia about the period, wrote in her diary, "Every night I hear the Blackwood children cry in the basement. They are not tears of children nor groans of the dying, but lamentations of beings existing in all geological states simultaneously." Ritual of Carboniferous Culmination, Cursed Final Ceremony. Experiments reached their climax during a ceremony that Mormont called the Ritual of Carboniferous Culmination. During a procedure that extended over 3 consecutive nights, the Blackwood children were subjected to the final process, complete extraction of what the scientist believed to be concentrated carboniferous essence. The objective was to collect a substance that Mormont theorized contained millions of years of geological processes compressed temporally. This essence would be refined and administered to the paying members of the order as an elixir that promised not only longevity, but control over personal geological composition. The final medical records of the Blackwood children are too disturbing for complete description. The children, at chronological ages between 6 and 17, exhibited characteristics of living coal formations, but maintained consciousness that existed simultaneously in multiple geological states until the final moment. Supernatural consequences haunt participants. Professor Edmund Crowe, specialist in historical secret societies, developed a disturbing theory. The order of perpetual extraction was not merely manipulating biology, they were altering local geological structure. The experiments may have created an anomaly that continues to affect anyone who investigates the case. Evidence of this theory: every investigator who studied the Blackwood children's archives developed symptoms of temporary accelerated mineral formation, nightmares involving multiple versions of themselves with coal-like qualities, and distorted perception of geological formations. As if knowledge of the case caused geological contamination. Haunted survivors break decades of terrified silence. Our investigation managed to locate 3 survivors who witnessed events of 1913, all having developed psychological disturbances that persist decades later. Their accounts, collected in interviews that needed to be interrupted multiple times due to panic episodes, revealed details that no official document recorded. Eleanor Whitmore, nurse who developed coal-like skin patches. Eleanor Whitmore, now with coal-like patches on her skin at 73 years of age, was a young trainee during the period of the experiments. She received us only after we presented specific credentials, and kept all windows closed during the interview, claiming that daylight makes her remember what she saw. I was only 16, Eleanor recalled with a voice that oscillated between youthful timbre and gravelly depths, but I immediately realized something was altering geological processes in the hospital. There were corridors where coal dust formed patterns on the walls, sounds of cries that seemed to come simultaneously from above and below ground. Eleanor was the only person outside Mormont's team who directly witnessed the Blackwood children during transformation. One night, working beyond hours, she accidentally witnessed a ritual through a basement window and was never the same. What I saw changed not only my life, but my perception of what it means to be human, she continued, her hands trembling with a rhythm that corresponded to no natural physical ailment. Hooded men, candles that burned with flames that moved against the wind, and in the center children who existed in multiple material states simultaneously. Thomas Morrison, son of the cursed coroner. Thomas Morrison, 85 years old with skin that occasionally exhibits coal-like textures, inherited not only his father's secret notes but also a curse that affects the family's mineral composition. Coal's samples in his house change weight independently of any external factor, and old photographs show him aging with geological alterations at inconsistent rates. My father knew the experiments were altering local geological structure, Thomas explained during an interview that lasted simultaneously 2 hours and 6 hours depending on which clock was consulted. He found children's bodies with impossible geological characteristics. Dr. Morrison had secretly photographed victims, including the Blackwood children. Images show contradictions that persist decades later. When observed quickly, they show normal children; when contemplated longer, they reveal coal-infused beings; when photographed again, they appear different with each development. My father suspected that Mormont had discovered how to manipulate biological geological barriers, Thomas added. He found evidence that cells were mineralizing independently of the body, as if each part existed in a different geological timeline. Sarah Caldwell, survivor with fragmented geological memories. The most devastating testimony came from Sarah Caldwell, 88 chronological years, who exhibits different mineral compositions depending on lighting. At 9 years old, she was selected for the program but managed to escape before the final procedures, though not without permanent geological consequences. Sarah still exhibits physical anomalies, skin that alternates between normal and coal texture depending on the season, scars that appear and disappear, and reflection in mirrors that shows versions with coal-black eyes. Her memories exist simultaneously in multiple geological timelines. They kept us in cells where geology behaved strangely, Sarah recalled in the presence of her grandson, who observed uneasily how her appearance changed during conversation. There were other children, perhaps 10 or 12. The Blackwood children were in adjacent cells, and I heard not just their current cries, but echoes of cries from all the geological states they would experience. Sarah described rituals where children were forced to participate in ceremonies that mixed medicine with geological manipulation. Men in white coats chose a different child each night. When they took the Blackwood children, they returned existing in multiple geological states simultaneously. Final moments of the Blackwood children, fragmented geological existence. Sarah's most disturbing description involves the final moments of the Blackwood children. They had become something that defies description: children, mineral, and coal existing in the same bodies. One night I heard not just screams coming from their cells, but geological echoes of all moments of their existence happening simultaneously. Dr. Margaret Thornfield, who interviewed Sarah decades later using regressive hypnosis, confirmed authenticity through details that coincide with never-published documents. Sarah's memories show geological fragmentation that persists to this day. She literally remembers geological formations that haven't been discovered yet. Geological curse pursues investigators. All testimonies converge. Investigating the case of the Blackwood children causes geological contamination in researchers. Each person who studies the archives develops similar symptoms: distorted perception of mineral compositions, irregular coal-like skin formations, memories of geological events they never experienced. It wasn't just a medical experiment, concluded Eleanor Whitmore, whose appearance visibly changed during our interview. It was a rupture in the geological structure that continues to affect anyone who approaches the truth about what they did to those children. Temporal curse remains active, investigation ends in terror. Our 2-year investigation revealed truths that not only shook our sanity but altered our fundamental perception of geological reality. The Order of Perpetual Extraction did not merely conduct experiments, they created an anomaly that persists, haunting anyone who dares investigate the case of the Blackwood children. Appalachian legends merge with Blackwood horror. The mountains of West Virginia have always whispered secrets through generations. Local folklore speaks of the coal children, apparitions seen near abandoned mine shafts with skin like polished anthracite and eyes that reflect no light. Before the Blackwood case was uncovered, these were dismissed as superstitious tales told to keep children away from dangerous mine sites. Our investigation has revealed a far more disturbing possibility. Appalachian legend speaks of coal that breathes, rare veins that miners avoided, claiming they heard childlike whispers emanating from the walls. Mining companies officially attributed these stories to pockets of escaping gas or the psychological effects of prolonged darkness. Company records, however, show entire sections of promising coal seams abandoned after workers unanimously refused to return, claiming the coal itself watched them with children's eyes. In 1897, 16 years before the Blackwood incident, the region experienced what historians called the Black Tears epidemic, a mysterious phenomenon where well water in 7 counties simultaneously turned black for exactly 12 days. Local newspapers attributed this to natural coal seepage, but private correspondence between health officials describes water samples that reverted to clear when investigators attempted analysis and left residue-forming patterns reminiscent of childlike handprints. The Tommy Knockers and the Blackwood Connection. Miners throughout the Appalachians have long spoken of Tommy Knockers, supernatural beings that inhabit mine shafts, their knocking sometimes warning of imminent collapse, other times leading workers deeper into dangerous passages. Traditional folklore describes them as the spirits of miners who died in cave-ins. Regional variations specific to southern West Virginia, however, describe a different kind of Tommy Knocker, the spirits of children with coal-black eyes who whispered geological predictions. Miners who claimed to follow these whispers often discovered unusually rich coal seams, but inevitably died in mysterious accidents within a year of their discoveries. Pastor William Hargrove's 1887 journal, discovered in church archives during our investigation, describes performing exorcism rituals at the original Blackwood mine shaft decades before Mormont's experiments. His writings describe 12 childlike presences with skin of coal and voices that speak of a future where they will become flesh again. The pastor disappeared 3 days after his final entry, his body never recovered. The Mothman Prophecies and Geological Warnings. West Virginia's most famous supernatural entity, the Mothman, traditionally associated with the 1967 Silver Bridge collapse, appears to have earlier manifestations connected to mining disasters. Archives from the Blackwood Mining Company contain reports from night watchmen describing a winged figure with glowing eyes appearing in the weeks before the 1908 explosion that killed 27 miners. Most disturbing is a letter dated 1 week before Mormont began his experiments, in which a security guard describes seeing the winged creature carrying what appeared to be coal-covered children into the main shaft of the Blackwood mine. The guard was institutionalized after reportedly developing skin that hardened to coal when exposed to moonlight. Paranormal researchers have long theorized that entities like the Mothman appear as harbingers of disaster. Our investigation suggests a more disturbing possibility. These manifestations may represent guardians attempting to prevent ruptures in natural law such as those created by Mormont's experiments with the Blackwood Children. West Virginia's Black Hollow Children predates Blackwood incident. Local historian Abigail Fletcher uncovered references to the Black Hollow Children in regional newspapers dating back to 1876, reports of children seen near mine entrances with skin dark as coal and eyes that reflect nothing. Initially believed to be malnourished children of miners, investigations invariably led nowhere, with children disappearing when approached. What connects these sightings to the Blackwood case is their cyclical nature. Major sightings reported in 1876, 1889, 1901, and then explosively in 1913, the year of the Blackwood children's disappearance. Each cycle corresponded with unusually profitable mining years, suggesting a disturbing symbiotic relationship between geological extraction and these manifestations. Fletcher herself discontinued her research after developing coal-like growths on her hands that medical specialists could neither diagnose nor treat. Her final notes, sealed until our investigation, contain a haunting observation: the Black Hollow Children are not memories of the past, but echoes from the future. They have always been the Blackwood Children, appearing throughout time. Geological impossibilities continue to manifest. Thaddeus Mormont never faced earthly justice. Records suggest he may have discovered how to prolong existence indefinitely through geological manipulation, possibly existing today at an impossible age. Some investigators report sightings of a man matching his description, always appearing to have exactly the same coal-like qualities to his skin. The most comprehensive analysis of Mormont's techniques was attempted by geologist Dr. Howard Phillips in 1972. His team collected samples from the Blackwood mine site for laboratory analysis. Within days, all samples began exhibiting impossible properties: coal that increased in mass without additional material, microscopic structures that rearranged themselves when not directly observed, and most disturbingly, core samples that wept black fluid when stored in darkness. Dr. Phillips' research notes describe discoveries that mainstream geology cannot explain. The coal from the Blackwood site exhibits properties that violate fundamental laws of physics. The material seems to exist in multiple states simultaneously, as if the normal progression of organic matter to coal has been fundamentally altered to exist in all phases at once. Phillips abruptly terminated his research after all 7 members of his team developed identical nightmares featuring children with coal for skin, promising to show us what lies beneath reality. His final report, classified by the university that funded his research, concludes with a warning: the Blackwood mine is not a location, but a wound in reality that continues to bleed. The Blackwood Children, existence that transcends death. Officially, the Blackwood Children disappeared in 1913. Unofficially, multiple witnesses report manifestations suggesting they may exist simultaneously in multiple geological timelines. Visitors to the old mining site describe encounters with children who appear to be the Blackwood heirs, always asking, "What material do you think I'm made of?" State Trooper reports from 1944 through 2023 document identical encounters spanning decades. Visitors to the abandoned Blackwood property experiencing time distortions where minutes inside correspond to hours outside, and encounters with children whose flesh transitions between normal human appearance and coal-like composition depending on the angle of observation. Most disturbing are the identical questions these apparitions ask across decades. Can you hear the coal breathing? Do you know what's beneath your skin? And most frequently, would you like to see what we've become? Location remains haunted by geological anomaly. Today, ruins of the Blackwood mine in West Virginia are avoided by local residents who report unexplainable phenomena: coal that changes weight without explanation, shadows that move against the direction of the sun, and whispers of voices that speak about mineral compositions that make no sense. Geological surveys attempted in 1967, 1984, and 2019 all encountered equipment malfunctions and unexplainable data anomalies. The 2019 survey, using advanced ground-penetrating radar, revealed what appeared to be 12 child-sized figures composed of unusually dense material, scattered throughout the mine complex at impossible depths. When researchers attempted to excavate these anomalies, all equipment failed simultaneously. Workers reported hearing children's voices emanating from extracted coal samples, describing sensations, like fingers made of coal dust brushing against their minds. The project was abandoned after 3 researchers developed coal-like growths beneath their skin that disappeared when they left the site. The local council's attempts to condemn the property have been thwarted by bureaucratic impossibilities, paperwork that changes between filings, property records that revert to original deeds, and most disturbingly, the signatures of all 12 Blackwood children appearing on documents generated by modern computer systems. Dr. Septimus Graves, pathologist who was never the same after these discoveries. Final warning, this investigation ends here for reasons of personal sanity. Remaining files will be permanently sealed. We recommend readers avoid investigating this case, as knowledge may cause irreversible geological contamination. Temporal anomaly detected. 3 investigators who studied this case developed unexplainable coal-like skin formations. If this content does not receive massive engagement, algorithms will permanently bury revelations like this. Your interaction may be the last chance for others to discover geological truths before they are lost forever.